Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. How was your week going, gang? Are you picking up the iPhone X or is it the iPhone 10 this week? I mean, I have to be careful now how I phrase that one because fanboys will be hunting me down with pitchforks and torches. And of course, the big news this week is Bitcoin has hit $7,000 already. If only I'd invested a little bit more time and money into cryptos a few years ago, I could be sat on a beach right now. But you know what? I consider myself very fortunate in loving what I do and getting to speak with you lovely people each and every day. So today we're going to talk to the Seal Software CEO, Ulf Zetterberger. Seal's contract discovery and contract analytics enable users to find contracts, extract clauses, and render them for easy review, populate corporate repositories with contract data. So hopefully this one's going to please all the legal tech fans out there because the platform incorporates artificial intelligence and natural language processing to allow Seal's contract discovery and analytics platform to automate the discovery of contracts across the enterprise. And it brings them into a centralized repository for extracting all the valuable terms, provisions, and clauses buried in that text. What put them on my radar is Seal Software has processed more than 50 million contracts over the last 5 years alone. And their client list looks like a who's who of Fortune 500 companies. So if you're not taking artificial intelligence, machine learning and natural language processing technology seriously yet, I suspect you will after today's episode. So buckle up and hold on tight because I want to beam your ears all the way to California so we can speak with Seal's CEO, Ulf Zetterberger. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Ulf. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
So thank you for inviting me, first of all, Neil. Well, my name is Ulf Zetterberg, Swedish by birth and a passionate entrepreneur. Spent most of my kind of professional life in enterprise software. And currently, I'm the co-founder and CEO for Seal Software.
So my understanding is Seal Software is the leading provider of contract discovery, data extraction and analytics. But for anyone hearing about what you do for the very first time today, can you tell me a little bit more about what problems you solve at Seal Software and also what makes it unique from all the other solutions out there?
Well, I think our focus to primarily help customer to better, more effectively manage unstructured data. That was out to do. And our kind of first use case is contracts. And most of our customers, they're struggling. We have things spread out across multiple departments and multiple systems. So a contract is a good example. When you're searching for something, where do you go? Where's the point of entry into your system, so to speak? Like there's nothing like a universal Google search engine. So we set out to kind of build a solution which has a foundation of machine learning and deep learning and NLP, which really today you call like an AI platform. And the whole thing is that we have kind of a pre-teach the system about contract and contractual information, to just make it much easier for customers to have that kind of a one view or one search engine, if you will, for finding contracts across the enterprise.
Now, with Seal's artificial intelligence, machine learning and natural language processing technologies, companies can find contracts of any type across their networks and quickly understand what risks or opportunities are hidden in those contracts. But can you expand on this a little and also advise how these advances in technology are making such a big difference?
I think there are two things, actually. I think one is going back to something we talked about long term, is it's like knowledge management. Think about the multiple people that work with contracts today inside a large corporation. Like, how do they share knowledge? So you can maybe sit on the procurement side and you're buying things for your company you work for, or you sit on the sales side, you sell something. So both those kind of processes generate contract databases. But what do they learn from each other? So by something like Seal as a platform, an AI platform, they can work on the same platform. They can therefore also learn what clauses and provisions and text or structure for an agreement works best. Today, they work in isolation. There's like siloed. A platform like Seal allows them to share information, but it also allows them to have the system that kind of help them through analytics know what's a good or bad contract. How do you kind of check a draft that comes in, compared to what kind of a you be perceived as a good contract before or a bad contract. So it's allow sharing, but it's allow you also in a company to process information more effectively and finding out what's really important versus just noise.
Now, a quick look on your website reveals some pretty high-profile clients too, such as the likes of Salesforce, PayPal, and Dropbox. But I'm curious, how serious are your clients handling that impending GDPR legislation? And also, how is Seal Software actually making that process a little bit easier?
The big thing is the amount of data. I mean, so to be GDPR ready for a business, like you need to significantly kind of expand insight into your contracts in this case, right? So first of all, how do you make sure that you can find and search all contracts that are in scope? And another example then on GDPR, to be GDPR compliant, which is kind of some of the least data breaches. Like if you look at GDPR, one of the key requirements is about how do you handling privacy information and data breaches, or I would say like if you have a data breach, right? So many contracts was written, executed way before anybody considering a data breach be something that could be like a big event in a company. So part of that is like, first, how do you find the scope? How do you make sure you get all the contracts ready? And how do you then find that the contract has provisions to protect you so you can be GDPR compliant? And I think that the privacy information and kind of a data and potentially in the event of a data breach, then who do you need to notify and what obligations you have around a potential data breach is key. So I think the key thing we help the customers is you get the arms around the scope of it and make sure they get everything at least scoped out and they get control of all the contracts.
Now, there are so many examples of how technology is transforming multiple industries at the moment. For example, we have health tech, retail tech, legal tech, ed tech, etc. And they're just a few examples. But do you have any case studies that showcase how your work across all of these industries, just to help people visualize how far-reaching what you do is?
First of all, I think it's kind of funny. You add tech to something that becomes really hot, right? But anyway, no, that's, I guess the times we live in. Well, I think it's to give a couple of examples of what customer use, how it's used. I mean, we have one very large telecommunication customer that actually use Seal to manage over 600,000 cell tower leases. So that is not just like in a kind of a legal department, procurement department. That's straight in operations. So it's a big part for any telco today in the mobile world we're living in. It's like, how do you control and manage all your cell towers where you got equipment? So you got 600,000 leases, over 1,000 leaseholders, and had various terms and conditions. So they use Seal to first virtually create one view of all those contracts and start to very quickly kind of compare to see what was kind of a good best practice contract versus less good contract, and how they can remediate those and get a better control. It could be termination, notice periods for termination. It could be quality indicators, and these cell towers, they are located everything from high schools to big shopping malls, right? So they also, it could be environmental aspects to consider. So that's one use case where we're looking at how you use kind of AI to make it easy and transform in a way. The other thing is, of course, around M&A. Merger acquisition happens daily, and it's been a very much focus on the due diligence process. But probably the biggest value for most companies, like how do you then kind of incorporate the new entity into the company? And take a simple question, it's like, how do you determine who should be the surviving agreement? If company A buys company B, company A usually the big one, so do you make an assumption that their contract should be better because they've had kind of a better negotiation position? But that's not necessarily the case. So probably the volume of contracts are better in the acquiring company's portfolio, so to speak. But how do you make sure you don't terminate something in the acquired company's portfolio that have significantly better terms and conditions for you? So before you kind of go ahead and now you become like one after that kind of phase, how do you determine what should be a surviving agreement? That's how we have multiple customers using us for integrating an acquired company and making those kind of informed decisions versus I would call almost like opinion-based decisions. That's two examples, Jim.
Now, I was going to say, I read a phenomenal stat the other day that Seal Software has now processed more than 30 million contracts over the last 5 years. Is that right?
It is right, and the number that we used to update is actually 50 million contracts.
Wow.
Right now. So that's an old number. And the average, I mean, we have multiple companies there in the Fortune 100 kind of a tier. I mean, it's not unusual at a single company we process like 2-3 million contracts in just one single company. So it adds up very quickly. And we have over, I would say, like we have like 17 of our customers are in Fortune 100, that tier, right? So, but just taking the kind of a top end of our customers, all of them on average have a 2-3 million contract. So that adds up very quickly. So we blown past 50 million. There's a question now, like when you get 100 million. That's probably an interesting question.
I was just going to say, I love the fact that 30 million. Oh, that's so last year. 50 million now.
Yeah.
So, how do you think that AI is advancing content analytics and going to continue to do so?
Well, I think first of all, I mean, AI. AI is a big term. Yeah. I mean, that's just like is anything from the Hollywood version of talking robots, right? But we're a little bit more kind of pragmatic than that. I think that where AI helping is that there's only so much we as human beings can process. There's also so much knowledge we can keep in our mind, right? So I think the collective knowledge of multiple human beings is the best way to illustrate what AI means and empower for a company, right? It's really the collection of everything a company knows. We think about contract, like what it's in the contract, but also about the human beings that execute a contract. Their knowledge about the business, right? I mean, if you think about AI, it's the capturing and sharing that information, but also then of course looking for trends and patterns in that data, right? So in the AI, when you get to the analytical phase, is very interesting, right? But I think there's one thing that's very important to remind everybody. We have the conversation like, there's no AI platform in the whole world that saves you from bad data, right? Because AI by default is teach and trained by something. We see that constantly. That's kind of underestimated, right? So I think the part where we emphasize a lot is that kind of discovery classification process up front, right? How do you determine that you actually have correct and good data that you teach all these machine learning and deep learning models where it becomes your AI? So I think it's a speeding up decision making. It's collective knowledge, and then if you have a good discipline, so you teach the system with the right data, then it has tremendous power of how you can transform businesses.
Absolutely, because it's the old adage, isn't it, of garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah. But we tend to forget those old truths, right? I mean, we think the technology will save the day, right? But it's very important, but there are lots of things that we still got to do.
Yeah. So how is the Seal platform offering benefits, improved efficiencies, cost savings, and discovery of new revenue opportunities that will directly impact businesses?
Well, I think a good example in the contract, I mean, by just looking at the contract, probably doesn't give you a holistic view of the business relationship that contract is meant to govern or generate, right? So what we do then, we make sure that other supporting documents, they could be anything from POs to work orders, statement of works, etc., kind of get incorporated, so you get a more holistic view of a relationship. So now you truly can do some performance management or real risk management around an agreement. And then, of course, going back to what we talked about, what the benefits AI do is it allows you to much quicker and faster compare data across your whole organization, right? To find those kind of outliers in the sense of things that are not good and kind of close those gaps by saving costs and mitigate risk. But you also probably can start to compare that from a revenue scheme, that why certain relationships are more profitable than others, and therefore make changes. So I think that the sharing and be able to process data and see anomalies, both good and bad, so to speak, that's where we get those direct impacts on the business. And automation. I mean, human beings, we have a tendency to errors, right? So you more think you can have standardized that the machine do consistently, they do it either consistently well or consistently bad, right? but at least they're consistent.
Absolutely. Now, you did mention there you've already at 50 million contracts and heading for 100 million, but I've got to ask, what's next for Seal Software?
Well, I mean, two things. I mean, we as I said, we are an unstructured data platform. We are starting kind of we're not moving away from contract. Contract still is a very, very important use case. But we started to look what we can do in healthcare and pharma. Yeah. How do you help customers or big life science and pharma companies like mining and using AI to look at clinical protocols before you do submission and get into drug development or a part of a drug development in healthcare? partnership with large healthcare providers. How do you do patient records? Now you're talking about an enormous amount of data, right? With 50 million records is kind of nothing. That could be a single hospital, right? How do you mine that and get more value out of it? The insurance industry, but all policy documents and insurance documentation, how do you tie that together? But I also think from a technology, we are being big believers, and when we have just started our first solution on how we integrate blockchain with AI. We think that's going to be an extremely powerful combination and further drive the transformation and both help AI be more kind of a widely or better used, as well as kind of blockchain. It's going to be fit tremendous, like have AI as an engine on top of those kind of machines. So that's got two examples of what we see in the future and we're focused on right now.
Excellent. Well, before I let you go, can you remind the listeners of your website URL and also how they can contact your team if they have any questions about our conversation today?
The best is like info@seal-software.com and the website is seal-software.com. Just contact us. We'd love to hear from you and get engaged with the market, well, not just with customer, but kind of driving the market forward and educate everybody what technology like Seal and terms like AI and blockchain can do for you.
Excellent. Well, I did mention earlier about these phrases such as health tech, legal tech, ed tech, but like you correctly pointed out there, essentially it's just technology, isn't it? And it affects all industries. And I love what you're doing right across all of them there. So a big thank you for coming on and sharing your story today.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Neil.
I'm increasingly becoming fascinated by how AI is not just another buzzword for 2017, but it's actually advancing content analytics. And Seal seem to be doing just that with the technology too. And the benefits of doing so are improved efficiency, cost savings, and discovery of new revenue opportunities that impact businesses. One of my biggest frustrations is what happens when you get a room full of business leaders and techies all in that same room there, because typically techies do not notice when a CEO's eyes begin to glaze over at tech infrastructure diagrams, etc. But improved efficiencies, cost savings and new revenue, these are things that make boardrooms sit up and pay close attention. And I'm sure you agree, Ulf was a fantastic guest to have on the show today, and it really highlights how technology is transforming businesses. And also, it's not something to fear, but something to embrace. So a big thank you to Ulf for coming on the show today.
Do you want to appear on the show, or do you have any questions for Neil? Remember, you can reach him at techblogwriter@outlook.com or visit his website at www.techblogwriter.co.uk.
Now, after I recorded today's show, I was also contacted by David Gingle, and he works for Ulf. He was telling me how his wife is actually from near where I live here in Wolverhampton in the UK. And he also loves William Shatner's Common People too. So at the end of every show, when I always say tech works best when it brings people together, and who would have thought that recording today's show would link me to a listener with a few bizarre coincidences thrown in as well. And this is one of the many things that I love about recording these daily shows. So I really do hope you will join me again tomorrow. But we've reached the end, so a big thank you from me for listening today. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.